Hello, and welcome to Wellness Live. We are so excited to have you join us today. If you're watching us live, it is December. Can you believe it's an entire year that we had the opportunity to meet every single month? And December is a joyous time. It is a time for thinking about the ending of a new year, ending of an old year, starting a new year. It's a really exciting time. You see the decorations, you are talking about gifts, you see the kids all excited. However, December not only brings joy, but it can bring a lot of other feelings. And sometimes it's not joy, sometimes it's worry, sometimes it's doubt, sometimes it's grieving. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about the other emotions that can happen and what can happen in December or these times of the holidays. We have a very exciting speaker for you today. I'm so thrilled that she made time for us today. Her name is Dr. Priscilla Santos. She is the director of our Employee Spiritual Care Department here at Loma Linda University Health, and she is a great person to talk to us about this very subject. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Priscilla Santos.
Thank you so very much for this opportunity. I am so excited. And as Dr. Olivia Moses said, there's so much that can happen in the holidays. It is such a great time, but wow, it can be heavy at times. And I want to share with you some tips and tricks, help us to connect together as people, because many times when we go through these things, we feel like we're going through them alone, and we're not. We are definitely coming together as a community and learning how to deal with these feelings and the stress. So today I do want to go over some things, but some learning outcomes for today. Identify common sources of holiday stress and emotional heaviness. What does that look like? Recognizing how stress affects the body, mind, and emotions, and apply simple strategies to support peace and emotional well-being. Before we begin, let us go ahead and pray and ask God to be with us today. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you so very much because you are the Lord of the seasons. You are the Lord of our lives. And Lord, you know how complicated it can be to just be a human being. And yet, Father, you have hope for us. So I ask that you be with our conversation, be with our minds, and help us as we discuss so many of these things. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. So, the two sections we're going to go through today are one, understanding stress and heaviness, and then two, moving towards peace and restoration. Understanding stress and heaviness is very important because if you ever want to address something, you first have to identify it. And identify maybe the why you're feeling something or some way. So I like to use a bit of humor, and I say sometimes the holidays feel like the gift that keeps on giving with a question mark. Per our statistics, 38 to 45% of adults report higher stress during the holiday season compared to any part of the year. That's almost half of adults. Financial pressure, family dynamics, time demands, and grief are the most commonly reported holiday stressors. Good to know. 1 in 3 adults say stress interferes with their ability to function day to day during busy seasons. So not only are almost half of adults feeling stress during this time, it's impacting their function in life. And it goes into those things that you might say, well, this is supposed to connect us, like family dynamics. That should be connecting us. Even grief is an opportunity to feel connected to another person. And yet, holiday stressors tend to steal from that. Now, when we consider holidays, we're like, well, this shouldn't have that kind of effect. Why does it? We must first understand that life is eventful, and that is the foundation that you are working with. As I go through these different life stages, think of how your experience was. The good, the bad, the awkward, how it was as I'm going through these. So you kind of have a feeling for what your foundation is. For example, how was your first day of school? What were the feelings you had? What was the experience you had? You know, your first backpack, your first lunchbox, were you like, thanks parents, I'm off to a new adventure? Or were you like, you abandoned me. I will never forgive you. Choosing your dream job. For some people, that's the light bulb moment. For some people, it feels like lightning. You know, I want to be a physician. I want to be a respiratory therapist. I want to be able to afford a yacht. You know, all of these things, choosing your dream job, it's eventful. Exploring relationships, whether romantic, your first crush, your first time you held hands, or platonic, when you find your ride or die people. Even with family, many things change the dynamics of family. Even learning how to do boundaries, that all takes emotion. And then encountering loss of a loved one, loss of ability, loss of an opportunity. I remember I used to work acute rehab where we had amputee patients. So I had to see people learn to start from scratch and learn a whole other way of life due to their now new circumstance. But that is a loss for them. Role transition. We all have multiple hats in our work life, in our home life, sister, daughter, mother, all of those things. And even in our church life or whatever community looks like for you. Think of those roles as well. Now, what emotions, when we consider all of these, went through your mind? There are many emotions that we can experience in life. Maybe you felt accomplished, maybe grateful for all the things that happened. A lot of people look at where they started and where they are now, and they're like, this is great. Determined, maybe you're like, okay, step one is done, now on to step two. Or maybe even inspired. But also, life itself can have some not so positive emotions. You might be feeling anxious or nervous about something. Maybe you're impatient. I know people who have their whole life planned out. And if they didn't meet that mark, imagine the impatience they must be feeling. Resentfulness. When we don't meet expectations, sometimes there's a feeling of resentfulness. Or maybe even embarrassment or shame. I look back at my time in high school and I just cringe. Like, we don't need to go there. But maybe you feel that way too. And that is kind of what makes up your life. And that is the foundation. So then when we add holidays, we're adding that on top of the foundation that you already have. Think of what I like to call this Christmas or this holiday bundle. We have Christmas, we have Thanksgiving, we have New Year's, for Halloween, for whoever celebrates Halloween. All of those are celebrated various different ways. All of those have different demands attached to them. Then we look at presents for the Christmas season. Presents are a huge part of it. And, even though presents can be a means of connecting with people, they're stressed. Will I get the present in time? Will it be the quality they want? Will I get in a fight at the store? Real talk. All of these things are real. And then take, for example, cooking as well. Cooking is another means of connecting. But if you're the cook, there's going to be some stress as well. And then travel. There's so much travel going on in this time. And actually there's a lot of fighting when it comes to travel. And this is, by the way, on top of birthdays, work, just the unpredictability of life. So then it's a no-brainer that you will encounter stress. Let's identify stress. Stress is when the body and mind needs to respond to a pressure. And there are various types of stress. We're going to focus on 3 today. Eustress, stress, and de-stress. Eustress is what we call positive stress. It motivates us and energizes us. It makes us grow. It's very short term. It can increase focus and engagement. Think about Christmas parties at work, and you guys are given an activity and your table has to beat the next table. It's fun and you're focused and it increases engagement. That is eustress. It's often connected to meaning. It can be challenging but manageable, and it kind of draws us closer to trust and growth. Another example will be learning something new or a healthy deadline. Now, then there is stress, and stress happens too when you stress, even though too many good things can be bad, it becomes stress. So random, neutral, manageable stress. This is usually ongoing, and it can go either way into eustress or de-stress. It does require some coping and support, and it's usually becomes very common in busy seasons. Things, for example, holiday planning. Sometimes it goes smooth, sometimes not so much. So it can go into eustress or it can go into de-stress. Work deadlines, but when the work is starting to pile up. Dealing with family, sometimes easy, but we're all human, so sometimes not so easy. And stress becomes harmful when it's constant or unsupported, and that leads me to de-stress. Stress that overwhelms our capacity to cope and negatively affects our health. It's unrelenting. It drains us. We feel tired, even though we're like, I didn't run somewhere. Why do I feel this exhausted? And it impairs us. Think about chronic financial strain, or think about toxic relationships, maybe even burnout. Symptoms of stress can manifest in many different ways, and our lives are greatly impacted by it. For health, think of cardiovascular disease. Hypertension is our silent killer, increases with stress. Think of immunity. We ever see that people who are very busy are usually sick all the time? That's because their immunity is constantly taking a hit. Or insomnia. It's hard to sleep when there's so much on the mind. Even twitching. Recently, I found my eye like twitching, and I was like, oh, I guess I'm stressed. Had no idea. But progress. Some people are like, I will do nothing. I'm so stressed out. And that creates delay. Some people are like, no, I will do all the things. It creates chaos. It can affect our reasoning, poor judgment calls, unintended emotional reactions. You might find yourself going to someone and be like, hey, I'm sorry about what I said when I was stressed. And then it can cause people to forget resources, support, and ability. So even though the holidays begin with eustress, it can move into stress, and without care, can slide into de-stress. And what might stress me out may be a walk in the park to you. What might stress you out, I might be like, that doesn't stress me out. We all experience stress very differently, but it's mindful for us to know these things so that we can manage them. Otherwise, it starts to become heaviness. And that's when there's absence of relief, recovery, rest, and process. Think of it as stress that has stayed too long. It has overstayed its welcome. And then when we look at holidays, sometimes we're like, well, it's just because it's the holiday season. Well, holidays don't necessarily create the heaviness. They just expose what is already there. Remember, you're already working with a lifetime of different things, of different emotions, of different trials, of different accomplishments, but they're all layered there. And with the holidays, suddenly you get expectations that are increasing. You get time that seems to not be as much as you wanted it to. I mean, Christmas is around the corner. Amazon keeps saying, you will not get this before Christmas. And I'm like, okay, so stressed. Grief resurfaces. We look at those empty places at the table, or we remember memories with those that we loved, or memories even that we had of ourselves. And then comparison. We look at the family next door. How are they doing? We look at other people and we're like, well, am I doing the same thing? Should I be doing the same thing? But all of this is actually an intensification of already what you're experiencing. So don't take it as, hey, I'm going through something that is caused by the holidays. Rather say, hey, this is bringing to light some things that I'm grateful to come to light. Now I can start addressing them in the long term. Remember, the beautiful thing about heaviness is this. It's the very thing Christ invites us to bring to him. So when you consider heaviness, when you consider stress, don't be overwhelmed by it. Don't be intimidated by it. In fact, think of it as, hey, this is an opportunity to grow and an opportunity to trust. Because God has so many things to help you as you look at this holiday season. So you connect with people and manage your stress so it does not manage you. Now, I did want to stop very quick and see if there was any questions or anything anyone wanted to bring to the table that we can discuss.
Thank you, Dr. Santos. That was a great. You did it very quickly, but there was a lot of powerful things in there. When you said, that's the very thing that God asks us to bring with him, that's going to stick with me for a little bit here. But one of the questions, we have some questions coming through, and if you're watching us live, please go ahead and type your question in the comments, and we'll ask Dr. Santos. So yes. One of the questions that came through was about comparison. You kind of mentioned that a bit. And this question asks about social media and other kind of influences. So the question is, what role does comparison play in developing emotional fatigue, let's say from social media?
Yeah, there's plenty of studies that show that social media has been pretty detrimental in helping us connect with others, because usually it makes us see, oh, my life is so great, my life is so beautiful, and you see all the positive things, but you're not seeing the reality of things. You don't know that it took like 7 takes to get that one shot, and you don't know what fighting happened in the background just to get to that point. They don't show that. And so unfortunately, in life, we tend to look at the best of what people are showing, but it's not always reality. And that goes the same too with our minds. Are our minds and our thoughts based in reality? And that's something you're going to want to ask yourself this Christmas. Is it more that when you're looking at other people and their lives, is it more like, oh, they have more, or is it more, what can I do to feel more fulfilled? That is more the question I would encourage. Okay.
to piggyback on that, how can we, what are some exercises, and you just said one just now, but do you have any other suggestions on how to keep us in our reality and the
Yeah.
goodness of potentially it is?
Yes. So actually in our second part, we will go over more of those tools. So there's
Okay,
quite a
great.
lot we can do.
Okay. The next question we have, what are some signs that someone may need additional emotional support during the holiday season?
So usually we have what we call like episodic anxiety, episodic depression, that can happen when people are having just a really rough time. But it's usually when you find it leaking into like work, maybe leaking into the way that you're functioning, where I would be like, hey, definitely get some support. Even before that, if you can like the beautiful thing about stress is it's okay to recognize it. A lot of people feel shame when they feel stressed. They're like, oh, I don't want to tell people I'm stressed or I'm feeling bad or I'm feeling negatively. We're humans. It's part of who we are. When you recognize it, you can recognize the signs of, hey, when am I going to start to not do well? When should I really start getting support? And usually I recommend if you like right away, but if you especially start seeing it start to mess with the function of your life, like if you're going to work and you're crying, if you're not able to sleep at night at all, if you're having just nonstop insomnia, get some help. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've seen a counselor. It's been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I highly recommend it. And not every counselor is a match. It's like, it's like dating. You need to find your match. So if you had a bad experience with one, try again. But that would be where I would recommend definitely getting some help if you find it affecting your function.
Absolutely. And I will say this, there is no shame in the therapy game, there is no shame in it. And what's interesting is we go to the doctor if we cut ourselves or we have, issues. For some reason, when you feel your mental health a little bit struggling, we
Yeah.
don't automatically say, "Let me go to someone to help me with that." And so we want to here in Wellness Live want to promote that
Yes.
absolutely. If you are feeling it, I always say, if you're questioning, "Do I need help with this?" that you should go. Might as well go and find out, and again, like Dr. Santos said, it is like dating. You do have to find a good match, and once you do, it can be extremely life changing.
Yes.
Well, let's go to our next question. What are some ways people can set boundaries during the holidays without feeling guilty?
Ah, That's always a delicate one because you never want to hurt someone's feelings. And I do want to encourage you by applauding you. Boundaries are actually a very Christian thing to do because it safeguards you so that you can recover and you don't hurt someone when you're trying to push yourself beyond your limit or if they're not respecting your boundaries. I find that boundaries are really great when you acknowledge the effort that someone is doing, but still also acknowledging your need. Say, for example, if someone's trying to reach out, but their behavior hasn't changed, you could say, hey, I recognize that you're doing this and I appreciate it so much. Unfortunately, like I'm still needing this. And until that happens, my availability is like this.
Mm-hmm.
And you can say, I don't know what the relationship is, but if it's a family member, I love you, like you mean so much to me. This isn't anything personal, but I do need to this is where I am with things right now. And so I just need to respect that.
Oh, it's great advice. Okay, let's get to the second half of your presentation.
All righty, let's see here. Okay. Are you seeing the slides or my notes?
Your slides.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move into moving towards peace and restoration. What does that look like? Now that I understand a little bit about stress and heaviness and I'm feeling maybe a little more comfortable recognizing that in my life, what can I do then? We identified the problem, we diagnosed the problem. What can I do then? Moving towards peace and restoration. So we're going to look at 4 tools. 1, the importance of pause and play, gratitude and meaning, community matters, and learning difference between control and trust. Now, the importance of pause and play. Let's talk about pause. Pause is when we allow time to collect yourself, your thoughts, and your plan. Think of it as a mental huddle. When you see basketball players and they're playing and maybe the opposition's a little stronger than they thought. The coach is like, let's huddle, let's bring it all in so that we're all on the same page. Or even at work, when there's a meeting happening, we come together to get on the same page. Studies show that even in brief moments of stillness, it improves cognitive clarity and emotional balance. So ask yourself, What can I do to create pause when I'm feeling pulled in so many different directions? I have to go to this store. I have to go to this store. I have to buy this person this. I have to buy groceries. I have to pay bills. I still have to manage life. What can I do to pause? And pause for some people looks very different. For me, I like to make a list of to-dos. I then lose that list and make another list of to-dos. But for you, you might find you do things a little differently. Maybe it's making notes. Maybe it's walking and exercise, which is great because the frontal lobe of the brain is where we do a lot of our rationale, our reasoning. And when we walk, we're actually helping circulation and blood back to the brain so we can think more clearly. Breathing techniques, there's a lot of evidence that shows when we breathe and we're breathing right, we're able to reason correctly. And so you will want to maybe breathe in through your nose, out through pursed lips like you're blowing a balloon. I'll do an example here. I have asthma, so bear with me. But and do that maybe 2-3 times. Just stop whatever you're doing, do that, collect yourself, think through it. And that's going to really help in terms of managing your stress because, again, you have so many thoughts and things going. You just kind of need to pause and do a mental huddle. And then the reframing. Is your thought based on reality or is it not? I remember for Christmas, I had a niece who I wanted to make her a cute little present. She wanted like this basket with full of random things. And so I made her a basket, but I was like, I don't know if this is going to meet what she has in mind. And I started like, do I even give it to her? I don't know if this is going to be a huge disappointment. I give it to her and she's like in love. And I'm like, why did I build up all this anxiety for nothing? Even at work, I remember when I would go to my one-to-ones with my boss, I'm like, am I in trouble? Why do they want to see me? I'm about to get fired. And my boss would be like, you're doing great. I have no notes. And I'm like, okay. And here I did, like, I just built up all of my blood pressure for what? For nothing. So sometimes we need to reframe and be like, okay, is there evidence for this? If not, maybe I just need to chill and just go through the process of life and enjoy it. Play. So play is voluntary, enjoyable activity that relieves stress and sparks creativity. And when we think of play, we think of children, but adults, we deserve some playtime too. And we actually find that play helps with emotional well-being, it reduces stress, enhances resiliency. So what does play look like to you? And I always think of like parents having to create something so that the kids can be less stressed. Like, for example, if they're like, kids, we need to clean your room, and the kids are like, I don't want to do it. And they're like, well, how can I make this fun? Let's make it a game. Whoever picks up the most toys wins. And suddenly it's a fun thing. Think of that for yourself. What can make it fun? Maybe puzzles or games, which funny enough also helps the frontal lobe. Painting, humor is a big piece of it. I remember with Christmas we have this thing where Santa, if you're nice, you get a present. If you're naughty, you get a piece of coal. And I didn't know what to get my coworkers, so I found these marshmallows that were covered in chocolate and it said coal. And so I would give my coworkers pieces of coal just to put a grin on their face, and it made me happy. Also, decorating Christmas lights. I went to Dollar Tree the other day. Oh my goodness, they have the cutest decor for Christmas and on a budget. Amen. But what does play look like for you? What can you do to help you find a smile and help other people find a smile during this time to help you with stress? Gratitude and meaning. So finding the realistic and positive aspect of things and rather than focusing on the negative actually helps so much with resiliency. When I used to work at a clinic, we would tell people, write one thing you're grateful for a day. And I had this gentleman, he's like, well, I'm just grateful for my shirt. I'm like, it's a great shirt. Write that down. And so he would keep doing that. He would just write down his shirt. And then one day he was just like, hey, I wrote down more things. And there was the biggest smile on his face. I was like, yes. Because what that does is it helps your brain create more new neural pathways where you start focusing on the good of situations rather than the bad. Because focusing on the bad can be very exhausting. Meaning making, the process of interpreting experiences to find purpose, significance, or understanding. What I like to say is romanticize things. You didn't just get Starbucks, you got yourself a sweet treat because you're going through and you're doing your journey. You're not just, baking, you're sharing your love through food. Like, romanticize those little things. Yes, you are driving like crazy to go to the stores, but you're spending time for people you love. Gratitude and meaning-making practices are associated with lower stress hormones and improved emotional resilience. So look at the gratefulness in your life and romanticize your life a little bit. Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth up the bones. And it's so true too. When I'm around people that are happy, it makes me happy. But when I'm around people that are negative Nancy's, man, what a downer. Community matters. That brings me perfectly to community. Spend time in community. When we're stressed, many times we silo. Do not silo. I mean, pull yourself together, but then go to people. It'll help us feel less alone. We'll recognize that I'm not the only one feeling stressed. Many times when we're stressed, we fixate on our problem. But when we're out, we realize, oh, wow, there's so many actual solutions and possibilities for my problems. And it helps us to be mindful of what is important. It says social and spiritual support buffers against stress-related illness and depression. I think of trips and how trips can stress us out. I just went to Florida with my husband and I visited my aunt. She's like, so have you guys had your first fight yet? Because it was our first time as a married couple going on a trip. And I was like, no. And she was just like, oh, well, the trip is young. I was like, what kind of curse? But sure enough, at that airport, when we were running towards that flight, we argued. And that happens so many times. And I'm learning that even though you're trying to get from point A to B and you might be stressed, you're still going to be late. But now you're going to be stressed and late. The whole point of this was to connect. So even though you're, going to be late, you can still connect and be late. So look at what really matters when these things happen. Try not to let it get to you so that you don't say things you don't mean to another person. Now, learn the difference between control and trust. Over 70% of adults report feeling overwhelmed by factors they cannot control. And attempts to control uncontrollable stressors significantly increase emotional exhaustion. Psychological flexibility, letting go of control, is associated with lower stress and improved emotional regulation. The problem is, we try to control the things we can't, like time, weather, political events, price of gasoline, the amount of items left in stock, the choices that others make. We have no control of those things. The only thing you have is control of yourself. John 16:36 says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. When we look at Jesus and him coming as a vulnerable baby, it was so that he can relate to us in our most vulnerable selves. And when he came into this stinky manger, even though he was the God of the universe, know that it's to let us know that he doesn't mind coming into our lives, even when it's less than perfect. Even when it's stinky, even when it's shameful, or even when we're embarrassed, or even when we're like, why did I say that I'm a temperamental, imperfect person? God is like, no, I'm with you and I will help you through these things. In fact, he says, even though our abilities have limits, God says with him, all things are possible. I'm reminded of the story of Roger, who was on his way somewhere and there was a lot of rain and he could not move forward. And him and his wife were going to be late. And he's like, Lord, I cannot afford to be late. Help us. And it says the rain parted as if it was a curtain. And he was not only able to drive through, but people started following him. When we lean on God to help us with the stress, to help manage, to help look at those parts of our characters that we're not so proud of, God is going to help us through it. And he's going to show other people that there is hope for tomorrow. There is hope even for a season where we feel so stressed. And that is the story of Christmas. A God who has come to take on our sins. It says here, cast your burdens on the Lord and he will sustain you. Friends, if you do anything this Christmas, spend time with God. Learn to lean on him when you have that stress, and he's going to help you put all those tools into practice. My prayer is with you. I pray that we all have an amazing season and that God blesses us abundantly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Santos. What a powerful end of the year message that you have given us today. I'm just going to ask you one question. And it's the question that came through is, if I am supporting someone who is struggling this holiday season, what is genuinely helpful?
I mean, the ministry of presence is wonderful. Unjudgmental presence. And then I find don't promise anything. Don't say, oh, everything's going to be perfect. We live in such an unpredictable world, but say, no matter what happens, I'm here for you. The Lord is here for you. And then see if they're ready to take steps. You can't fix people, but you can at least offer them help. Do you want to go for a walk? Have you eaten? But spending time, the ministry of presence, it means something.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that
Yes.
powerful message today, Dr. Santos. That was a great way, like I said, to end the year. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for Wellness Live. Want to thank you for those of you who have visited us here in this Wellness Live space for more than one lecture and one session. We are planning a wonderful 2026 for you. And with that, I want to wish you all of God's blessings as we end this year, wishing you a happy holidays on behalf of our wonderful team here at Wellness Live with Bobby and Joey and Haley.